Okay, picture this for a second. Your phone rings tomorrow morning. You pick it up, and it's your bank. But instead of a friendly check-in, they give you a truly terrifying ultimatum. They calmly tell you that your comfortable fixed 2% mortgage, it's dead. Instantly. Overnight, your monthly payment spikes from a manageable $1,800 to nearly $3,000. I mean, just imagine the sheer panic setting in, right? That immediate sinking realization that your entire financial reality has just been shattered without a single warning. It feels exactly like a nightmare. But what if I told you this isn't just some scary scenario to think about in the dark? Because hidden news reveals that this isn't a hypothetical fear at all. Instead, some believe this is the deeply hidden, staggering reality facing the United States government in the year 2026. You see, we've all been looking at the absolute surface level of the economy, but hidden possibilities suggest a trap has been quietly set right under our feet. And honestly, this is the exact danger of not looking behind the curtain. We are rapidly approaching a moment where the very foundation of how our system operates is going to face a sudden, violent reset. $9.7 trillion. Let that sink in for a moment. It's a number so incomprehensible, it's honestly hard for the human mind to even process. Hidden possibilities suggest that a single, almost entirely overlooked decision made in the shadows of 2020 has triggered a terrifying debt cliff of exactly this size. It's literally a ticking clock, a massive looming wall of financial obligation that is accelerating toward us right now, while most people are completely unaware. Look, for decades, the entire system functioned on a really simple, predictable cycle. The government borrows, the government spends, and the economy just sort of hums along. It was a rhythm we all trusted, right? But something just broke. The tension is incredibly palpable in the markets right now because the 30-year Treasury yield recently pierced past the 5% mark, and that is a critical threshold. We haven't seen levels like this since the eve of the 2008 Great Financial Crisis. The golden threads holding that simple cycle together, they've snapped, and the machine is violently sputtering. So how did we get here? Well, while the world was entirely distracted by the chaos of 2020 and 2021, the government actually had a historic opportunity. They could have secured the nation's financial future for a generation by locking in rock-bottom 2% interest rates for 30 long years. Instead, hidden news reveals they made a staggering choice. They opted for greedy 1% loans that expire in just 5 years. They chose the illusion of saving a tiny bit of money in the moment, and by doing so, they completely sacrificed the long-term safety of the entire system. Some believe this short-sighted, greedy decision was not just a mistake, but arguably the most massive historical blunder in the history of the U.S. Treasury. Because they chose those specific 5-year terms, all of that borrowed money didn't just disappear. It just got a very short fuse. It forces an astronomical amount of debt to be completely refinanced in 2026. But here's the catch. This time, it will be at the highest interest rates we've seen in 20 years. The bill, as they say, is finally coming due. And the undeniable reality of this debt trap is towering over us right now. The cost of simply paying the interest on our national debt has become the fastest growing expense in the entire country. It is completely dwarfing our military budget, it's outpacing healthcare, it's literally eating absolutely everything in its path. We are watching a system that is visibly suffocating under its own weight, which creates what is known as a debt trap. It's a scenario where you are no longer borrowing to build roads or fund schools. You are desperately searching for new cash just to cover the escalating interest payments on your old loans. And as this pressure mounts, a very real storm is gathering. Throughout this explainer, you really have to decide, will you be a passive victim of this shift, or will you be a student of the change? Because understanding these hidden mechanics is the only way to shield your hard-earned paycheck from what is coming.
Now, for your whole life, you were told a really comforting story. You were told that the world wants to lend the United States money forever. It was framed as a guaranteed safety net. But hidden news reveals a chilling, alternative reality. The giant of the East is walking away. China, which was once the absolute largest buyer of our national debt, has quietly transformed. They are no longer buying. They have become a net seller, dumping U.S. treasuries into the open market. And the crazy thing is, they are far from alone in this shadow pivot. Other sovereign nations are looking at this $9.7 trillion cliff, and they are quietly abandoning the dollar. Instead, they are hoarding physical gold. Why? Because they deeply fear the looming dark shadow of global inflation. They see the undeniable mathematical impossibility of the 2026 refinancing, and they are rushing for the exits to protect their own nation's wealth.
This forces a stark, terrifying choice upon our own government right now. If the rest of the world simply stops lending us money to roll over this debt, what happens? They are faced with an impossible balancing act. On one side, heavily cut essential programs like Social Security, which millions literally rely on to survive. On the other side, desperately find a brand new, unheard of source of cash. Those are the grim, heavy stakes for the everyday citizen who is just watching from the sidelines. The trap is closing around your own wallet, too. Perspectives suggest that right now, for every single tax dollar you work hard to earn and pay to the government, 20 cents vanishes instantly into the void. It builds absolutely no bridges, it funds no hospitals, it is gone immediately simply to cover the interest payments of the past. As we approach 2026 and those rates skyrocket, just imagine how much wider that missing slice is going to get.
We all cling to an illusion of safety, assuming the Federal Reserve will just step in to rescue the system when things get bad. But hidden possibilities point to a deeply uncomfortable truth. The institution meant to save us is neither federal, nor does it actually hold a reserve. It is a masterful illusion. They don't have hidden vaults filled with emergency cash waiting to pay off this incoming $9.7 trillion wall.
So, when no one else in the world will lend the government those billions, hidden possibilities suggest the Federal Reserve will simply use their power to print the currency. But there is a massive, inescapable catch here. Printing currency does not equal printing wealth. You can create all the paper money you want, but you cannot print genuine prosperity without paying the ultimate, invisible price. And that price is punishing, relentless inflation. This brings us to what is known as the Great Divide. When the printing press is run hot just to escape the debt trap, society fractures into two very distinct realities. On one side, you have melting wealth, meaning the average person's paycheck buys less and less at the grocery store, and their hard-earned savings literally melt away in purchasing power. On the other side, the investor becomes rapidly richer. Assets like stocks and real estate are artificially pumped higher and higher by the very ink the Fed is using to print its way out of the corner. You know, you've been told your entire life that the system was fundamentally stable. You were taught to play by a very specific set of rules. Save your money, work hard, rely on the system. But the undeniable math of the 2026 cliff proves that the rules of money have permanently shifted. The ground beneath us is moving right now, and pretending everything is normal is the most dangerous thing you could possibly do. History absolutely loves to repeat itself. It just wears a different mask. The massive system-shaking mistake of 2008 was the housing bubble. Everyone thought real estate could never go down. Then came the hidden, quiet blunder in the shadows of 2020 with those short-term interest rates we talked about. And that leads us directly to the mistake of 2026, a massive, inescapable sovereign debt trap. The mechanism is different this time, sure, but the resulting shockwave, it's exactly the same. So how does the government actually plan to escape this? Well, perspectives strongly indicate that those in power are secretly addressing this lender crisis with a digital pivot most people won't even comprehend until the trap has already been sprung. Hidden news reveals a shocking alternative solution being explored behind closed doors: cryptocurrency. A total reshaping of the financial rails to manage debt in a digital landscape, completely bypassing the traditional lenders who are walking away from the table. You simply cannot afford to wait for the job market to feel the full impact of the 2026 refinancing shock. The divide is widening so rapidly. By the time this hits the mainstream headlines and the everyday economy, the opportunity to position yourself to protect your family will be completely gone. You must act now. You have to become a student of this change and become an investor today to shield yourself from the melting wealth we just talked about. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a really profound thought to carry with you. Look closely at your next tax return or your next paycheck stub. I want you to ask yourself, is the money being taken from you a genuine contribution to building a better future? Or is it simply a forced payment on a massive hidden mistake from the past? The trap for 2026 has undoubtedly been set. The sheer gravity of $9.7 trillion guarantees that. But the exit remains wide open right now for those who are brave enough to know exactly where to look. Keep questioning the surface, and I'll see you next time.